This is Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and we need to talk about the latest injury news around the Los Angeles Rams that are going to impact the NFC Championship game and really impact what the Seattle Seahawks are going to need to do to prepare to beat this Rams team for the second time in a row. When we look at the two big key injuries for LA right now, Emmanuel Forbes Jr. is dealing with a shoulder injury that he suffered against the Chicago Bears in the cold. Maybe he just was a little bit too afraid of the cold. And then Byron Young got a little less snap share than he is used to, dealing with a knee injury. What could be going on with both of those two? We're going to dive into, will they be able to play against the Seahawks, who their backups are, and who those backups would need to be if they were going to have to come in against the Seattle Seahawks, and most importantly, how the Seahawks plan to attack both of these positions of weaknesses. But before we get to any of that, make sure that you join the Noti gang. Come on in, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. When you do that, you will get a buzz on your phone and you will be alerted whenever we drop a news or rumor video here on the channel. You don't want to miss out on any of the latest news with the Seattle Seahawks going into this NFC Championship game or throughout the year of 2026. We're going to have great free agency coverage, great draft coverage, great offseason coverage, but most importantly, great NFC Championship game coverage, and hopefully great Super Bowl coverage as well. So come on in, hit that sub button, and turn on your notifications. So this tweet is coming to us from Greg Beecham, a reporter for the Los Angeles Rams, or a reporter on the Los Angeles Rams, I should say. He's reported that linebacker Byron Young was dealing with some knee soreness. Emmanuel Forbes obviously had a shoulder issue. And then Sean McVay basically said that he did not expect either one of those two guys to be sidelined at his media availability on Monday. We're going to dive into what both of those injuries are and who the backups are, starting first here with Emmanuel Forbes. Now, he was a key injury, and I know there's a lot of Commanders fans right now that are shocked that I am saying that about Forbes, because he left the game against the Bears with only 4 snaps being taken. You had to see a lot more of McCreary and Williams stepping in to fill in for his shoes. And I'll tell you this, Forbes is a pretty decent cornerback, or at least he has been this year. He's been playing extremely well, doing a great job of locking down a lot of opposing wide receivers. In fact, having some success even when he's taken on some of the Seattle Seahawks wide receivers. When you look at Forbes' entire year this year, I think it comes as a shock to a decent amount of football fans how well he's played. He's got a couple of interceptions. Guys aren't getting by him. He's coming in making a lot of solo tackles, which you're going to have to be able to do at an extremely high rate as a cornerback if you want to be successful in the National Football League. And I think the most important thing that Forbes has been doing well is knocking down the football. Opposing wide receivers do not have an easy time catching footballs against him. Case in point, the very first game that Seattle played against the Rams, and JSN, the best wide receiver in the National Football League, had one of his lower one-on-one matchups against Forbes. Now, he ended up catching most of the balls that were thrown his way in that very first matchup, but he only ended up getting a minor amount of yards, which was about 30 yards, as opposed to what JSN has been doing to everybody else, which was just absolutely cooking them. Now, when you look at his entire game in that first matchup, obviously JSN had a lot of success, right? You can see all the different routes. He still ended up having 9 catches and 105 yards. It is ironic to say that that was kind of a down game for JSN, but essentially when he wasn't matched up on Forbes, he had a lot of success. When Forbes was matched up on him, he caught the football, but he didn't get a ton of yards after the fact, basically averaging 10 yards a catch. Forbes is a solid cornerback right now in the National Football League, and so if he would be unable to go against the Seahawks, that would be a big deal for LA. Now, it does sound like Forbes isn't going to be limited. Don't be shocked, though, if he ends up on the injury report going into the week or throughout the week. But it is something that the Seahawks need to keep an eye on. If I was Seattle, I would put JSN on Forbes again. He had a much more success in that second matchup. But more importantly, if Forbes isn't 100%, I don't think that he's going to be able to stop our wide receiver one. And I don't think that these two would be able to stop our wide receiver one as well. The backup cornerbacks is Darious Williams and Roger McCreary. Now, both of these corners are solid backup corners, but that's the thing. they are backup corners. When you look at their stats on the year, obviously Williams having a little bit more time, getting a little bit more pass breakups, where with McCreary, teams just really aren't targeting a lot of the receivers that he's going against, and he's having a stellar year as well. Now, McCreary has obviously taken a slight step back, but he has kind of done pretty decent since he came over to LA, and he does a great job of getting tackles. He's not afraid to jump into the mix. I still believe that JSN would cook these two, and I still believe that Cooper Kupp and AJ Barner, depending on if they were in the slot and he was lined up at that H position instead of a Y, if Elijah Arroyo is able to come back this week, he would have a lot of success against these two, where Forbes is going to be a little bit more of the lockdown corner, or have a better success rate at being a lockdown corner, I guess I should say. If Seattle is able to get more and more reps against those two, Williams and McCreary, instead of Forbes, I think you're going to see a lot more success go the way of the Seahawks. That being said, it's Emmanuel Forbes Jr. against JSN. I'm going to take JSN a lot of the time. Let me know down below in the comment section, what is your confidence in the Seahawks passing attack? Scale it 1 to 12. Are you overly confident? Are you not confident at all? Let me know down below in the comment section how you feel about this passing attack, especially with Sam Darnold's injury issues. Next, we are going to dive into what's going on with Byron Young and all the news around him. But before we get into any of that, I need to let you know about my good friends and the proud sponsor of today's video, my good friends over at Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Find your community on Prize Picks. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. New feature alert! Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. I have a 2-pick power play for the action this weekend. Cooper Kupp more on his receiving yards. Matthew Stafford less on his passing yards. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Back into the injury news for the Rams and Byron Young. He's been dealing with some knee soreness. It does have an effect on a lot of bigger guys, a lot of bigger athletes, just like Byron and myself, of course. No one look into that. But he had a season-low snap share, and that is very important for us to really dive into here, because if Byron Young isn't able to go at 100%, that allows the Seahawks to now focus a little bit more on Jared Verse. When you look at Young's output this season, yeah, he's had a pretty good year, going to have, well over 80 tackles on the regular season, but the number that's going to jump out to me is the sack number for Young. He's been absolutely fantastic this season at getting to the quarterback. Now, that sack rate has dropped down a little bit, but he's still one of those players that when he's at full tilt and he's able to bend that corner, he can really attack the offensive tackles, right? Young is a difficult player to block when Abe Lucas is at 100% and when Charles Cross is at 100%. The problem is that Charles Cross is not at 100%, and it's hard to spend more focus on a guy like Byron Young using running back double teams in pass pro, using a chip from a tight end, chip from a guy like a Cooper Kupp, because you have this guy on the opposite side of him. Now, Verse's sack numbers are a little bit lower, but Verse is a little bit more of the run stuffer between the two, and he's more of the power rusher. Now, Verse has had some of his stats go down a little bit this season, but again, some of that reason is because more teams are focused on Jared Verse. You have two premier edge rushers that Seattle is going to have to focus to, and that allows the Rams to have them on opposite sides and not have to worry about Verse or Young getting double teamed as often as they would if they only had one of the two players. When you look at the offensive line for the Seahawks, our normal traditional starting offensive line crew, I would feel comfortable with them. And I'd actually feel comfortable with Josh Jones filling in at one of those tackle spots after the previous matchup. But they have to do a great job of keeping Sam Darnold upright, because Darnold's just not going to be able to take the same amount of hits as he normally would because of his oblique injury. You cannot let Sam Darnold sit up in the pocket and say, hey, you know what? If a normal game is going through with a great edge rushing team just like this Rams crew, you're going to get hit 10 times, right? Let's say that's what the number is. You can't allow that because we don't know that Sam Darnold's going to be able to make it through a game like that. I understand that he looked good. I understand that he was able to sling the rock a little bit and still had a zip on his football. It's still an oblique injury. It's still something that he is having to manage. The Seahawks cannot allow this defensive line group to get to Sam Darnold, especially if Charles Cross isn't going to be able to go in this one. Now, I still really like his injury report status. Right now, Cross is day-to-day for the Seattle Seahawks. In my mind, that means he will be able to play when the Seahawks suit up on Sunday. But if Byron Young is able to go and they got him a little bit of extra rest to kind of help some of that knee soreness, a matchup between Amari Kite and Byron Young, I freaking hate. Cross has to play on Sunday. Because even if Byron Young is at 70%, let's say he's still getting a lower snap share on the season because of that knee injury, which I do think he will, right? They are going to make sure that Young is loaded for bear and at his best when Seattle is in third and long situations, because that's when Young's at his best, when he gets to use his pass rushing skills. Cross is best when he is in pass pro, because he did it for years at Mississippi State under Mike Leach's system. Cross has to play for Seattle on Sunday. He has to, especially with all the injury news and all the injury updates that we've gotten around Josh Jones. Let me know down below in the comment section, who is your favorite Seahawks postseason performer? Who's come up with the big plays and the big moments for the Seattle Seahawks? We need to know down below in the comment section. We're trying to catch Knicks now. We are getting ever so close. Let us know if you have not subscribed by hitting that sub button. Look at that. We're within 3,000 subscribers, just barely. But hey, last week we were 4,000 subscribers away. So you keep hitting that sub button, and while you're there, you might as well ring the bell and join the Noti gang. Turn on notifications so you never get caught by surprise when it comes to a Seattle Seahawks news story or a Seahawks rumor story, because you see our videos first, and we keep you up to date with everything that's going on with the team. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today's video, and I'll catch you guys next time.